Hello, everyone. Let's talk about searching a juvenile's room based on parents' consent. Guys, my name is Anthony Bandiero, attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training. Bringing to the roadside chat, also the author of the best-selling Search and Seizure Survival Guide. We have a search and seizure book for every single state. Go to bluetogold.com and check it out. So this officer, he says, Indiana cop here, question about consensual searches. Call for service, and parents want police to search the room of a juvenile for drugs or guns. So I guess they got word that maybe he has these items in his room. Can police search the room for these items? Also, what if he also wants the child arrested for that. They also want the child arrested for that. But also, what about adult children? I doubt juveniles have the same right to privacy as adults do. But wondering what your thoughts were. I know California v. Fernandez and Georgia v. Randolph are two big cases on this issue. If they pay rent for the room, or if they don't pay rent, does that change anything? All right, so it's a good question. Let's start with some ground rules. You know that I like to kind of teach you how to fish, not just give you the fish. So the rules are this. Number one is you can search, right? A consensual search. This is what this is. A consensual search is based on three factors. Number one, it has to be voluntary. You cannot coerce consent. Clearly, the parents are calling you, and they want you to search. So that's the epitome of voluntary. The second thing is authority. That's going to be the issue here. Does the person you're getting consent from have the authority to consent to search? We're going to talk about that. And the last thing is scope. The scope is what are the parameters of the search? If you ask to search my car and I say, "Hey, go ahead," but I gotta be at work in 10 minutes, that I'm limiting you on the time you have the search because I'm basically implying to you at least that I don't want to be late for work. So, or I say, "Hey, you can search my trunk, but not my glove box," things like that. So here, the issue is going to be authority. Do the parents have the authority to consent to search of the juvenile's room? Almost always the answer is going to be yes. Unless they've been emancipated and they are, they're on their own and they're basically a roommate, which is a very rare situation in America, then the parents have common authority over that room. Now, common authority is where the person has almost like an equal right, if not more, at least an equal right of access to the place to be searched. Here, the parents almost undoubtedly have a right of access at least equal to the child. However, if you want to go one step further, they actually likely have what's called greater authority. Their authority over the room is going to be greater than the juveniles. Why? Because it's literally their roof. They pay the rent. They're also in charge of raising that kid, moral and guidance, and making sure that the child, stays out of trouble, does their homework, and so forth. So the relationship and the expectations is as such that a reasonable juvenile would I'm not saying they're reasonable, but a reasonable juvenile would understand that the parents have greater authority over the room. So this is not going to be an issue. We can get into the weeds about what about if the child brings in stuff from the outside world that can present some dilemmas. But generally speaking, if the parents just tell the police, "Hey, the room is yours, go search it," with those general facts, the cops are going to have the authority to search the room. When you introduce adults into the mix, it is going to throw a monkey wrench. However, it's not necessarily a deal killer. A lot of situations they don't look any different than when the kid was 17. In other words, just because the child has turned 18 yesterday does not necessarily mean that everything is different as far as consent to search. Do they still pay rent? Do they pay rent? Do the parents still have access? In other words, does it look like a parent-child relationship, or does it look like a landlord-tenant relationship? Look at the facts. Now, here's what I teach, just to kind of keep it clean. If you show up to the house and the kid is 19 years old, for example, and the parents are like, "We think there's drugs and guns in there," or you ask to search and the parents are like, "Go ahead and search." Generally speaking, what does the situation look like? Is the kid still in school? Is there any indication that the kid pays rent? Are there locks on the room to keep the parents out? Do the parents say things like, yeah, we're not allowed in there, but you can go in there anyway? Things like that. However, if the parents are talking like they have access to the room and they tell you, yeah, we go in there and he doesn't pay rent and there's no lock on the room and so forth, then generally speaking, you can go in. However, what I also teach is that if the adult child is present and non-consenting, and you have some factors that maybe lead you to believe that this is kind of like his room and he is being treated like an adult, not just like a kid staying at home. Some 19-year-olds are still treated like kids. Maybe they have some mental difficulties or impairments and so forth. But the point is that if the adult child is home and non-consenting, you know what? Unless you are really confident in your legal position, you probably should try to find another way into that room, mainly a search warrant, right? Because it can get a little murky. Because if the kid goes into court and establishes that, yes, under these facts, I had a equal privacy interest as my parents, meaning, I'm an adult, I do chores, but those chores are in lieu of rent and so forth. Then you have a Georgia versus Randolph issue, which is basically the U.S. Supreme Court saying that people with equal authority, if one says yes, mom, and one says no, son, and they do have equal authority because they're an adult and they have other factors in play, then you most likely are not going to be able to search that room because the no is going to cancel out the yes. Does that make sense? So at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're talking about here. You really need to pick up the Search and Seizure book. I do talk about these issues in that book. If you have any questions for me or any of my team, please let us know at bluetogold.com or put a comment below. If you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Until next time, my friends, you stay safe.